African students. That's why we're going to talk about refugees. That's why we're going to talk about racism inside of Ukraine and Russia. And later on in the show, we'll be covering all of those things in great detail. But right now, I want to talk about the international community's response to the Ukrainian situation. As soon as Russia invaded Ukraine and the war broke out, everybody around the world was almost unanimous in its support for the Ukrainian people. Everybody stood up and spoke out about how this was wrong, and they talked about the humanitarian cost, and they talked about sympathy. They sent their prayers. They did all the things you do when bad things happen to people who don't deserve it. I ain't mad at that. That is cool. Here's my issue. The international community, specifically powerful nations, media outlets, and everyday citizens, especially white ones, about how this was wrong, and they talked about the humanitarian response to the Ukraine. As of July of this year, Israel has gained observer status in the African Union. As Black News Tonight, it's important for us to cover this story because Black people care about what's going on in the world. It's especially important for us to talk about the ways that a story affects the Black community, both in the United States and around the diaspora. That's why we're going to talk about African students. That's why we're going to talk about refugees. That's why we're going to talk about racism inside of Ukraine and Russia. And later on in the show, we'll be covering all of those things in great detail. But right now, I want to talk about the international community's response to the Ukrainian situation. As soon as Russia invaded Ukraine and the war broke out, everybody around the world was almost unanimous in its support for the Ukrainian people. Everybody stood up and spoke out about how this was wrong, and they talked about the humanitarian cost, and they talked about sympathy. They sent their prayers. They did all the things you do when bad things happen to people who don't deserve it. I ain't mad at that. That is cool. Here's my issue. The international community, specifically powerful nations, media outlets, and everyday citizens, especially white ones, have been so dishonest, so disingenuous, and also so mean-spirited in many ways in regard to how they are responding to what's going on in the Ukraine. Let's start with the dishonesty and the disingenuousness. When the war broke out in Ukraine, you got countries running around talking about we stand with the Ukrainian people. This is a contravention of international law. We must recognize and respect territorial boundaries and integrity. We must allow people to be sovereign and govern themselves. We must honor treaties. We must do all this stuff. And that sounds good, except many of the nations who were standing up and saying this stuff. Australia, did you do that with the Aborigines? No. The United States, how many countries have we invaded? How many countries have we bombed? How much territorial integrity and sovereignty have we ignored? How much funding have we given to nations that do it? Israel continues to not honor the territorial boundaries and sovereignty of the Palestinian people. They continue to violate international law. So for all these countries to stand up and speak with crocodile tears about the Ukrainian people, and they don't say anything about things that are happening around the world, it's disturbing to me. It's also really problematic that we're having these conversations as if this is the first place or the first time that this happened. The very same week that the Ukrainian people were harmed by Russia, Israel is bombing Syria. Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen. Bombings are happening all around the world, and it seems like the only people who got sympathy were the Ukrainian people. The only people who got international love and prayers and declarations and statements made were the European folk, the white folk, not the brown folk, damn sure not the black folk. Why? I think we got a simple answer. And that answer is white supremacy. That answer of white supremacy speaks to racism, it speaks to Orientalism, it speaks to all these other, what we call discourses, these things that have you think the world operates a certain way and you normalize it. So we think, oh, starvation happens in Africa, so if there's a famine in East Africa, nobody trips because they think that's just what's supposed to happen. Oh, those Arabs been fighting forever, so when you see a bombing or some kind of internal war, you don't trip about it when it happens in the Middle East, but somehow it's not supposed to happen here. And this ain't my theory. CBS News had somebody report that. They said, well, this is happening in basically a European country, and they're civilized. He used the word civilized. Another reporter talked about it being people with blonde hair and blue eyes, and how that's what makes this a problem. People keep talking about this as if it shouldn't happen here. You're right, it shouldn't happen here, but it shouldn't happen anywhere. But the fact that the global community is only outraged when it happens to Ukraine, they get mad when Crimea gets annexed, they get mad when people from Kosovo and Kosovars get kidnapped back in the day, but they don't say anything about Nigerian girls getting kidnapped. They don't say anything about Lebanese people being bombed. They don't say anything about Afghanistan and Iraq. They don't say anything about Palestine. They don't say anything about Yemen. They don't say anything about Kenya. They don't say anything about Somaliland. They don't say anything about any of these countries, South Sudan, Sudan. They don't say anything about anything other than white folk. That's why on Black News Tonight, we cover these stories every single night. Because we can't wait for the media to tell us when to be outraged. We can't wait for the international community of powerful elites and powerful bodies of money. I'm talking about the United States. I'm talking about France. I'm talking about Germany. I'm talking about the World Bank. I'm talking about all these companies and institutions that tell us when to care and how to care. We can't wait for them. We got to have our own compass, our own values, and our own principles. And everybody out there that's bleeding their heart for Ukraine, good. Save some sympathy for black and brown folk. Or be honest and say you only care because they white. All right, everybody, be sure to join the conversation. We want to hear from you. Make sure you head over to our BNC Instagram and Twitter pages. Let us know how you feel. Also, visit our website, bnc.tv, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out clips from the show.
That's that Black Network News, and I just wanted to visit them last night and what have you to see where they was coming from. Like visiting others, and if you visit India, even Korea, all those places, they sound like that. But the people here try to make it sound like we're all alone and nobody sees it like we do. He could give a khutbah here. This is exactly literally word for word. And he's a Negro. You know, he's colored. The point is that I want to talk about this in a little different form tonight. And kind of like, there's elements, some of this, maybe 80% of it have the wag the dog syndrome. Y'all remember wag the dog? Okay. See, you notice our whole hum and what have you when I talk about some of our so-called allies, like Soviet Union. And I may say, well, dear Putin, da-da-da-da-da. But dear Putin, when the Israelis is going to bomb Syria, they communicate with each other so they don't get in each other's way. You know, not that half of the Israelis is from Russia, you know. Yeah, the Israelis, shoot, there's a zillion Russians there. And so when people try to make it seem like that our approach, our understanding, our concept is an isolated one. It's not even close to the truth. In fact, almost everybody, even, you know, the nice looking Indian lady that comes on, that's Shayatina. That girl is mean. Boy, I ain't never seen no mean Indian lady and she's so nice looking too. I said, my Lord, girl is mean. But every now and then on these things right here, she's ho-humming and playing the violin for us. But then when they get to they got Indians that's going to school over there too. So when they get to the Muslims, when they have to include us, they go ahead, but they pull back as fast as they can. I mean, if you watch the Indian generals and what have you, see, the Indian generals are like Pakistani generals. Like when they get out of the service, since they're the same people, I mean, they just got a line down the thing that says this is India, this is Pakistan. Like if you were in the library over there, you would see a lot of the books written on Islam are written by General so and so. And if when you're going around Pakistan, and the same thing is true in India, when their old brigades and their old military posts, they still have the colors of those old British units. Like they're proud of them. Like they're proud of being part of that. Okay, yeah, they're still there right now. At least they was a couple of years ago. If you look at the Indians when they march exactly like the British used to march, kicking their hand, not like Germans, Americans, but throwing their arms way up and down, stuff like that. So they have a lot to coincide with British, and if you go and look at any program, any people, whether it's in people of color like China, Japan, uh, literally everywhere, Korea, they have the older people have a similar picture of American black people as white people do. They have a similar picture. And they still have a great picture of white people as, if you look at some of the famous in China and what have you, the mixed race Chinamans, especially women, that you see on certain TV things, they're all mixed race. It's like high yellow women over here. This is from Haiti. I don't think I can answer. The brother's been, I'll just call him back, been calling us about, they had a hurricane, all that stuff happens to Haiti. Brothers need our help, and it seems to be genuine. Right at the time, and I would like to tell them we have good news for them, but well, y'all see what was happening when we went out. That's just the way it is. And there's a hadith, not a hadith, this is just a saying by some of the scholars. Instead of saying Allah will help you, almost don't say nothing. You know what I mean? I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, and say may Allah help you, but some of the scholars kind of no, they didn't say don't say that, but some did say don't put Allah's name with inabilities, like a hindrance. I can't help you, so Allah will help you. Then they will think, well, bad as things are going. Okay, so this North American evolution that we want to talk about today. This is a very it's deep. So if we wanted to, we could start with the mentality of the world's mentality about people. And generally around the world, it's still, even in places that are struggling with Europeans, it's still, if you're white, you're all right. Korea is the same way. Africa, hands down. That's a global reality. It ain't a whole lot you can. And a lot of the, what's the name? A lot of the Chinese hated that. All the Chinese nationalists, from Bruce Lee's time, although he was married to a white woman, it's no big problem. She's from Seattle, so they are different up there. They really are, anyway. So, but from Bruce Lee's time to all these Jet Li crew and all of them, those are Chinese nationalists. And if you notice their movies, they try to let you know that without going overboard. In the last couple of years, from China itself, they coming back with a almost American style. The mean old white man trying to say, people like you will always be something or other from people like us. And then he flips him over and says, no, something or other. You see that little clip? Yeah, it's a new day, homeboy. The mean old white man, And they're the big white man. They got their crew of, I don't know if you wouldn't remember, but years ago they had a standard pool of Orientals, whether it was Korea, whether it was the old Manchurian Candidate. They had the standard, because people wouldn't know the difference between Korean, Japanese, and all. I mean, as long as you was Oriental, you could. So they had their standard bad guys, And of course, what was that Chinese detective? Charlie Chan was a white man. His children was Chinamans, but Charlie Chan, I mean, he was a good guy. He solved all the problems, the world's problems, but he was just as white as he could be, So the point is this, is like even movies like the old ones, 1915, Birth of a Nation, since they had to touch white women, they wouldn't they had blackface white folks playing Negroes. If you remember that.
I do remember,
Yeah, shoe polish on their face, stuff like that. Because they had to touch a white woman. That's 1915. That was a big year for lynching. That was one of the last years. Finkel, whoever it was, the big Jew got lynched in those days. Anyway, back to this subject. We're living in a complicated world, but the world is headed in a certain direction. It is headed in the exact direction that we're headed in. And all of when the empire reaches, when the empire switches into a decline, everything that it does, like the Quran says, you can't speed it up and you can't slow it down, but it appears that whatever America does, it accelerates its decline. That's what it looks like. So everything that America is doing right now, we might bring a little wag the dog in here, but even if it's just some of that in here, which is very possible, you got to remember, you could tell years ago that it was Russians on one side and Americans on the other, and they split up the world. And you either had to, if the Americans was supporting, like say in Central America, if Americans were supporting all the death squads and all that, in Salvador and Guatemala and all of that, right? Then the Soviet Union would be supporting the other team, like in Nicaragua. In fact, Fidel Castro gave a lecture in Nicaragua. It's about revolucionarios son optimismo. Revolutionaries are optimistic. This is what he was saying. I knew that much. So I'm trying to say this. Where we are now, it's almost chiseled that this is the way it's going. The United States of America would have to really, or not only the United States, the West would have to have a lot of luck to change the direction it's going now. And then it accelerates, like the last 2 weeks have been a serious acceleration. Example, okay, you dirty Ruskies, what we're going to do is we're going to sanction you. Brrr, everything goes up. And then today the dummies said that we might really do some oil. Okay, now you got to think about it. The oil companies get rich. They get soaked in rich because they double up on you. If it goes up 20 cents, they go up $5 a gallon. You know, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's the same thing. The people don't gain nothing on these things that are happening right now. It's costing the people. Number one, they just come out of a cycle of inflation already. And now, this inflation today, you could see what is it, gas? The oil prices was something like 125 and 128. Yeah, it says that it went to 130, and sometime it goes up and it might drop down. And the last, like the stock market goes up and down, but the last posted for like 4 o'clock. Okay, now over here things are not. They stop at the stock market, but they don't stop on the international market. So 128 and 125. As for 125 for crude oil, the cheap, and this Brent, 128. Okay, and they just put another something or other. I know they're not going to do it, but we going to sanction Russian oil. Well, if they do, you got to remember, when things go bad for you, the Saudis ain't helping. Nobody's helping them. And all of our friends, this helps Iran. This helps Syria. Although they got it blocked off where they can't use hardly. Don't make a difference. This helps if they selling oil, if oil get up to $150, which that could be in 3 or 4 days from now. Easy. Because it was just last week, it was at $100. This is $100 last week. $98 last week. 1 week ago. Can you imagine? So there's a period of windfall for us, all of our friends. Okay, if you got a truck on the highway, you're in trouble. If you go over 3 blocks a day, you're in trouble. But with the little teeny cars, it'll hurt, but it ain't going to kill you. But quadruple inflation, everything inflates. Like, the fire as the heat goes up. So when those prices go up, automatically there's 2 things going up. No, there's no 2 things. Everything is going up. But food is going up. Well, if you increase the prices, it costs you more to go get the fruit and bring it here, right? And then if you go, all the fruit in the store says California on it, right? You can't get any further and still be in the United States than California. And the other fruit comes from Florida and Texas and Mexico. You would be shocked at the amount of fruit. They're American companies down in Mexico. They own most of the, hey, you can see on the boxes, Mexico. If you're eating pineapples, you love pineapples, they come from over there. You see what I mean? Uh, right at the time, when everything is falling apart anyway. And the old forgetful man, when you come up with a scheme, I have to get back on top. I have to get my numbers up. I see what he's old timer, right? So he's going to go back to the old stuff that they remember. Well, what did we do? We used to always have a wag the dog. It always worked, right? Well, what's the name? Wag the dog. Old George Bush. He goes up to 81% in the polls. No matter if it's illegal, crazy, it don't make no difference. So everybody, not, the Gulf War, we'll just attack Iraq. Da, 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 da. Weapons of mass destruction. All of that stuff worked then. It all worked. It all worked, and it was all illegal. It was all criminal, and it seems like they didn't pay a price then. They're going to pay the price now. See, because, okay, let me try to slow down and get focused here. Dear believers, people would try to ignore us or pretend that we're out of step with reality. Generally. This is a Negro. He put a thobe on, put a kufi on him, he'd take a phony shahada, and he could give khutbah if he wanted. Right? He didn't miss anything. These are colored people. Right? That means that they're influencing a segment of the population. There's another segment of the population that they cut off RT, they cut off this, that, and other, they cut off Iran, they cut off everybody, and they figure that you will be stuck with that kind of news that they giving out. But when it's time for you to go down, people can go over there to India. People can go around here to Spanish news. You know, you could get some of our stations on Spanish news. So they can't isolate you anymore where you don't get no news. But it don't make no difference what the news say. The reality is, where is everybody at? Where's the world at? Now, sometime in battle and what have you, the psychological stuff means stuff. But if you're on a downward trend and you cut off information to one group or another, it may make your decline even bigger because you're fooling some of the people and the air is still in your stuff, but one little pinprick and all air goes out, not part of the air. You see what I mean? This is what's happening to the United States. And all of the friends of the United States, which are not friends, if you double-cross whoever the white folks was double-crossing, France as if they're going to forget that. You know, like 2 weeks later, oh, fine. We're back with NATO. Well, of course, NATO, Germany, and France have always been kind of linked together. Well, if I got beat up by a tough guy, eventually I'd either try to kill him or join him. I mean, that's the way it goes, right? So France got beat up by Germany 3 times in a row, 1871, 1914, and Hitler flew over and captured great France in 3 weeks or something like that. It might have been 4 or 5. 3 times in a row. So they got a psychological thing about Germany. And you got to remember, goose-stepping Germans, those big old goose-stepping white folks, are different than other white folks. Just like Chinese, they said the Chinese don't want any dumb democracy. They're into a social. You can see from everything they put out that they want strong, guided, good leadership. Germans are the same way. They're just big old white folks, like they used to be big. They want, you know what I mean? They don't want, and Russians are like that too. They want a strong leader. They don't want no little old sweetie pie, make too many choices. They don't, hey, look, man, we got 4 or 5 choices, it's fine. 500 choices, I don't want to be bothered. That's too much work. And the Zionists know that. The Zionists know that. The Zionists have studied that. One of the things the protocols of Zion say, flood them with information. Flood them with choices. And you'll befuddle Tommy Jones and them. That's too much. I can't do it. Right. Okay. That's why we keep our stuff nice and simple. If you heard one, you heard them all. Same routine. We have 5 basic approaches to the same thing. What do we call it? Redundancy, over and over and over again. We're not going to miss because it's too redundant. But that don't mean we ignore anybody. And everybody is headed in our direction. Everybody is thinking, okay, so a few people that are really slow are going along with this Americans. But you got to have ABC, CBS and stuff tattooed on your heart to believe this stuff. You got to really be slow. You know what I mean? And the people done had a lot of stuff happen. And you can't have 22 American soldiers committing suicide every day and it ain't no reason for it. Why are they doing that? And then people look back at it. And people are used to seeing dumb stuff on TV. I know 15 years ago, it was something about this big old football player joined the army. Yeah, and he went over there and get killed, and his brother, they was trying to, we know the guy, he wore his thing like this, and he's big, and he gave up that super football career. And him and his brother was over there. And see, when they do it to your brother, you could hear the brother and the parents, no, I don't, and all of this stuff, drip, 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 you keep doing this, pretty soon the confidence level in the United States, add it up. How many people have confidence in the United States? How many people, and who makes the money all the time? Same crew. Any war, you don't have to worry. Okay, we're going to have a war. Well, who's going to die? First, let's figure out now who's got to die. Oh, you got all them children running around. Y'all go and just suit them up, send them on over there to die. In the meantime, we're big oil, we're big war industry, right? We need more money. We need trillions. Why? My cousin over there, he only got $75 trillion in his account. And that ain't nothing. We need more. It would seem like they would get enough and say, okay, we're going to cruise. They don't do that. It's not a human. The greedier you get, the more you get. The more you want, right? That's why there's no stopping this, because everything is accelerating. Self-acceleration, right? They're lighting their own fuses. They're smoking their own pipe. They're doing that. Okay? They did it in history all the same way, but this is accelerating. That's why we may jump back and forth between evolution and revolution. But we're calling our evolution actually technically a revolution, because things are moving so fast. Artificial intelligence, all of that stuff. It used to take generations, sometimes hundreds of years, for a thing to fall apart. They was calling Turkey the sick man of Europe for a long time. Way back in 1689, they was calling it. When they was, and then they made fun of them, The croissant, you know where that come from? The bakers, that's right. 1689, the bakers was it Vienna, one of them places. The Russians, who are we talking about? Not the Russians, but the Turks was digging under the city, and the bakers that get up in the morning early heard them. The bakers. And so they told everybody, so they hooked them, they whooped them. But that was just a light whooping. That wasn't the whooping didn't come till 100, 200 years later almost. Anyway, 170 years later. The point is this. They made a croissant, which people associated with France, but they just got hold to it later, with the Ottoman cross, the crescent and the star. Yeah, croissant means crescent. Yeah, so every time you eat a croissant, they're making fun of the Muslims. Yeah, they just don't have a star with it, but the croissant, that's a friend. Everybody they cut their croissants, they put a little jam on it. The Muslims do that. They don't know that no, that's right? That's the joke. Because the bakers got up early in the morning, which they do all over the world, and they heard them digging under the city walls. So that's why after that, anyway. So look, dear believers, I know we talk about this type of stuff all the time. And tonight or today, all of this stuff is just loading in, and there's no specific direction that we want to go in, except to clarify. We have here rerun and Wag the Dog and stuff like that. And there's elements. There's elements of Wag the Dog. There's elements of it. Because like America lied to Russians before, but that ain't nothing new. They two big criminals. You know what I mean? And so you either went on one side or the other for decades. Okay? So it's Wag the Dog, 75, 80%. Here's why. It don't mean it's the only thing. But if you add up the old man, 79, 100 years old almost, the president right now, him and his crew, he's from the old, everything he remembers is back then, when that stuff worked. So if he come up with a brand new plan, it's just like me recycling everything I have written down. I don't need today's stuff. I can go last month. I could go 5 months before, or even 5 years. 5 years ago, it'll be a few words different on there, but the pattern is the same. So I'll copy this, and then I'll read what I just wrote, and it'll say the same thing that it wrote way back then. The point is the Biden was in the Senate 40 years, something like that, right? So when he get a wag the dog syndrome, he's gonna wag the dog is not old to him. It's like, yeah, that's a good idea. We haven't used it, and they start calculating. Let's see. Gulf War, that one 20 years ago. We haven't had that. We have, okay, weapons of mass destruction. There's a whole generation that have forgotten about that, right? Which is semi-true. Semi-true. Shoot, that was 2003, right? And Afghanistan was 2001. Okay, so people forgetful, and then there's a whole group of people they don't even know about it. They don't, you know what I mean? So here they come with the same pattern. But see, this is what happened throughout history is there's a collective memory, and there's enough people that do remember that they will remind the people that don't. The other thing, let us not forget that the young people look at this stuff different. Excuse me, just 1 second. Scam Lackley, what you doing, man? What's happening? This Scam Lackley? Huh? That's what it says here. It says Scam Lackley. What kind of scam you got on today? That's what I thought. That's what they always do. But I have fun. I don't mind. I don't cut them on. Don't call me no more. You can push the button. I have a lot of fun. That's the usual. Hey, Scam Likely, where you at, man? What you doing over there? They listen and they hang up. But anyway, see, in this process of life, people are beginning to understand and remember. And 20 years ago might have been a while ago for some people. But can you imagine the young people? Because, after you talk to a lot of people and you listen to them, young people are depressed. They're depressed. They're sad as they can be. And who wouldn't be that their parents had borrowed up all the money in the world and they got to pay it back? And they get out of school. Can you imagine? Oh, and I know they don't hold $100,000. But if you go to med school, 300,000. Can you imagine? No, they don't pay it off. I hear that they don't pay it off, that people die owing. They used to give out, America would give out grants. You go back in the 70s, you couldn't do that. But see, when things start going out, that rich get richer and the poor get poorer really kicks in. And the rich right now are really getting rich. And America is not the America that I grew up in at all. At all. It's not even close. Families was big then. So a family of 5, a mother and father, a family of 7, and 5 kids. 5 kids might have been standard in those days. I know people that had 10 children, some 13. I knew people that had 13 children in their family. They just kept having babies. They didn't have no protection. They didn't. And then the bigger the family in those days, the more power you have. You go back to a family, everybody wanted children because you had to put them to work. You don't feed them for a while, but after they get 5 or 6, when I left the country, I was 6, I think. Okay, I was riding around on the tractors, but that was just a setup. If I would have stayed another year or two, I'd have been, well, I did a little lightweight work, nothing to kill you, you know what I mean, at that age. But if you was on the farm, you wasn't gonna, you had little chores you had to do, so you can eat all you want, but you're gonna, you're gonna be in the work pool. And a bigger family in the old days, the better. But there's certain things happening now. I don't care what country you look at. If replacement is 2.5 in America, it's down to 1.7, right? Replacement for families. Where you have to have 2.5 children. Okay. India, same thing. China, same thing. Japan is already old. It's maybe it's a natural phenomenon that Allah, after you got too many people. So the young people, like I listen to mine talk to me. They said, "No, Dad, I ain't kids." So look at us. You do all of that work for us, and what do? We stand here and we talk crazy, and we do that. I said, "Well, that's right. That's just what you do." After all, and you done loved us. They've seen pictures, I'm holding nice little Sakina, a proud father, and all of that. Look at that. And look now. Can you come and take me forward to the store? Did your mother take you to the store? Hell no. You walked. Right? And they calling you, Dad, I need to go to the store. What the hell is the store? What this? Go walk to the store. I don't even have the nerve to tell them, go out and walk. Okay, I'll take you to the store. Because I got a habit of getting out and getting around anyway, a little bit. And so that I use it like brainwashing, like this helped me fulfill my obligation. But it's lazy children. And they tell you they're not thankful, they don't appreciate nothing. The kids, because they're in college and they hear everybody talking. My mom is da 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 da, and my dad, and you can see all the cars pulling up and bringing their kids and all the stuff they need, and they don't. You think they appreciate it? Heck no. You supposed to do this. I said, no, I don't, technically, Islamically, after you get a certain age, I'm cool, So, and it way up in the 20s, all that dumb stuff. But the point is, look at America. The heart and soul, the people that beat the heart out of them. They don't have no hope for the future. You start off in the hole. I mean, way in the hole. Can you imagine you're going to start off with a dumb education that you can't do nothing with it, but everybody think you got to have it, right?
That's the worst part about it, because people don't be wanting to hire you unless you get that bachelor's, but you don't need the bachelor's.
You go out and do work. Ask the Latinos out there what degree they have, and look at the trucks they driving now. Right. First they was pushing them clunkers around, 20 years ago. Then they start getting and now you look at the trucks be parked out there. They got super duper four-wheel. You know what I mean? And that's just the beginning. And they can't hardly read and write. Because they know, hey, you do this, and then you do it a little better than the Negro, because the Negro likes to work 2 days a week. They do it, They used to be real cheap. They ain't like that no more. You come running that stuff about, they said, no. They got the books on the standard pricing too, because they can read them now, And no, look, the point is that the people of America are depressed. And the old people that, the people who are my age, I guess they consider them old. Well, they wasn't bad, but the people of my generation, white and black, was crushed by the government. That was a generation of make love, not war. You go to San Francisco, wear some flowers in your hair. That was my generation, right smack in the middle of it. They didn't want a Vietnam. Who, me? You must be crazy. The Sands of Iwo Jima, John Wayne stuff, not us. Make love, not war. The white man rolled on them. You see at Kent State, the white girls leaning over the body is like, what is it? What is this? 1970? You could see like, like why? What is the purpose? What is, right? Just what is this? Okay, so they broke that generation. They used heroin and everything else on black people, broke all our organizations. Everything that would make America big and strong, they worked against it. Okay, with white people, the white people still on it. Crystal meth is so old, and acid, because there's different drugs black people use some crystal meth, but white folks liked it. It's kind of freakish. So anything is I'm not the racist, but they you get to learn who likes what. But that crystal meth crank is a super monster. And they rolled it on them. You might have heard about Haight-Ashbury. That was an experiment. Just a nice experiment. They just effed it up for them, San Francisco used to be all of the Bay Area. If you was going to look for the center of hope and optimism in the 60s and 70s, it would be California. Look at it now. Look at California. Can you imagine? They got signs all over the states, Texas, and Washington used to always, you come into Washington, because I was in California, so I'd drive up there to just get a little air sometime. They would be mad. We don't want y'all up here. It wasn't black. We don't want Californians up here. You're not going to Californiarize this wonderful, you should imagine, beautiful Seattle, all of that water, the Puget Sound, oh my goodness. Tumwater, Washington, that's where they make that famous beer. From Tumwater, Washington. Good God Almighty. Washington apples. Even in the penitentiary, they had to, because up there at McNeil Island, they would bring big boxes of apples in they grew on the island. And when I come there, I didn't know what it was. I said, they just had all them delicious, big old greenish yellow apples for free. You just eat all you want, because they grew all over the place. You had to pick them or they'd fall on the ground. So the convicts would go pick them and bring them in the kitchen. And I got there in the wintertime. And then visiting Washington and Oregon, you can drive by houses and they have big boxes of apples out there. Take all you want. In October and November, that's when the apples kick in. The natural apple season. I'm trying to say that the world that was here and it was beautiful, they messed that up. That don't exist anymore. There's no plan for recuperation. Everything that they could do to recuperate, they're accelerating downward. They're accelerating downward. And this is the historical process. So now, what do we do about it? There's some elements of wag the dog, but what they put in, the little mix they got going on now, it's insanity. Right now. Whether they start the war or whether they just press Russia till they just say, hey, man, I ain't taking no more. That's kind of what it looks like. Like, hey, you said Poland, you said this, you said that, and then here you are on next door talking about coming in. You had a missile crisis. We was 90 miles off Cuba. You was going to start World War III. If you cross this line, we're going to blow it up the whole show. You can call it a day. And the whole world was watching. They were praying, oh, God, please, have them Russians turn around, right? This is 62, something like that. Boy, look at here, 61. Yeah, my goodness. They turn around, but they had to give up the bases, the nuclear bases in Turkey and all that, stuff like that. Okay, that's why you don't always know exactly this Russian-U.S., because sometimes they cooperate and sometimes they not. You know what I mean? You just go crazy trying to waste your time. What you got to do is figure out how this stuff is working. It doesn't make a difference this go round. Everything is bad. But Russia did plan ahead. It saved all that gold. So it makes you think that, okay, something was going on. China's saving gold too. But the point is this. With global inflation, with global wars and unjust wars, with unjust response to all the people who are really treated bad, like we always say, weather's Yemen, right? And this is a Negro talking. It ain't like we who understands the depth of it. It's a traditional Negro. And so if people don't hear us, it don't make no difference, because when Allah write it down that it's time for them to go, they're going to send it to somebody that they're listening to. They don't have to hear it, but we don't have like, oh, we want you to hear it from us. Makes no difference, long as you hear it. And it might be put in a way that you could deal with it easier than if you hear it from us. The thing is that it's said. The thing is that it's accepted. It's accepted because he have a suit tie on, he's colored. Like you say, I don't have a dog in this fight, you know what I mean? I'm just a commentator. And the white folks did say, this is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, everybody's welcome. And, oh, you Africans, you're not welcome. You got to remember there's a whole continent over there. It's called Africa.
Well, he does have history. And his reputation was when he spoke out against Israel.
Yeah.
So that helps
His credibility, because if you speak out against the Zionists, and see, everybody's speaking about they worry about the Zionists. If you got to watch now, the Zionists was trying to get status in the AAU, Organization of African Unity. Now they ain't getting none because our homeboy, they gave a stamp that whoever stamped that didn't he didn't ask nobody. He just did it. And the Zionists, hey man, undermining Africa, oh, they did a little project to help. Yeah, Entebbe Airport, the Palestinians got hold to the Zionists there, and they flew in. They knew where everything was at. They had probably had 10,000 agents there, African agents, and they flew in and flew their people on out in 72, something like that. Okay, let's get back on the thing. Look, maybe you can feel it a little, but things are headed in our direction. Not because it's us, but because we happen to be right at the right time, and we happen to be focused. Now, Allah is helping us all the time. It's like you would think we're sitting back writing a script and saying, "Oh Allah, would you do this, that, and the other?" Like a dua. That's what it sounds like. Tell the truth. Everything that's happening today, it sounds like, well, we're making a dua. Oh Allah, just make a fool out of them. Just fix it so that they nothing, anything they do, it hurries up their downfall. And it does. These idiots, inflation already. Oh, we just gonna do this and we gonna do that and bump the world, and then they tell all those lies on their lying news, right? And everybody else now got their own news, right? And you can get their news if you go over here and go over there, you'll get their news, right? So you can't cut off. The old days, they could cut off everything and brainwash you, right? That was Gulf War days. Everybody, Saddam the Liberator, right in the middle of the stream. Don't even change horses. Butcher of Baghdad. Remember that? They didn't change horses. They didn't do nothing. And everybody strolled along with it. Weapons of mass destruction. Oh, where are they at? What do they do? It's weapons of mass destruction. Right? Now don't nobody believe them no matter what they say. Right? You would think that everybody believes that crap that they're saying. Listen to their own people. They don't believe it. Especially the young. We're not going to any war. We don't care. NATO, what is that? Where is that at? Right? I owe $50 billion. You want me to now put on a uniform and go over and get killed? And what do? 22 of them going to die, suicide every day. Why? Because you done treated them bad. You see what I mean? Everything, so you get away with a lot of things for a long time. Then when Allah pull the cord, whoop, parachute open, and that's it. That's what's happening to America. And America is bringing everybody with it. It is bringing everybody with it. On the other side of the coin, the inflation, this is the worst inflation. See, people, if they ain't lived through no inflation, they don't really get, this is unbelievable inflation. And guess what? It's just getting started. Guess what? Because they're going to have to print some more money.
That's true.
They're going to have to print some more money, and they're going to have to give it out. That means $5 means it's worth $2. Right. Anybody been to the store lately? The prices is like in Lebanon. They have people there right there. Every day the price is different. And then they have notes that have a 50 million peso note, and they have to just cut off thousands or like a million. And that's the way what they done to other people is happening to them. Yeah, it's happening to them. And this is just the historical reality. It's not, they couldn't get around it. The reason they couldn't get around it because Allah done hooked it up and it's their time to go. And their behavior is not improving at all.
That's the thing.
They didn't improve in Scripture.
Yeah, that's true.
Nineveh is the only one that ever, right? Out of all the forecasts and predictions. And, it just, the people don't listen. What it is habitual. When you get things as a habit, you just do them easy. So lying is easy for Americans. It's easy. Uh, Mixing up this old stuff from that stopped working 20, 30 years ago. Well, the guy leading doesn't remember, he can't think of anything in the future. All he can think about is, hey, to him it's a fresh idea. Why don't we, like I put ideas down all the time. And like I said, I get a brand new idea, and I said, man, this is a good idea. Only thing is, I done written it 50 times, the same good idea. And I wake up in the morning with a good, fresh idea. And that's good for you. It's just that I didn't have that fresh idea. To me, it's a blessing because, you wake up ready to go with a brand new earth-saving idea, right? And that's good, right? I mean, and you know in your heart that this is the same as the day before yesterday and last month, right? And that's the way Biden is. That's the thing about old age, He just, I got a great idea. Here's what we'll do. We'll mix a little wag dog. He's cooking up his little thing. How about if we box Russia into a box where and they done told us that you can't, hey man, this is a red line, Ukraine, we just don't want you to do that. And then they just say, oh, Putin, he's a mean old joker. He ain't gonna let you push him around. He ain't Yeltsin, them other guys. Hey, I can't, hey, they get on the phone. Hey, is this the Pentagon? How about we use that old play, call it 1, 2, 3, backslide to the left and right up the center. Yeah, that's a good play, and they run it. Why? Because they've been running it for 500 years. Well, I mean, 50 years, 20 years. And then everybody know what they're doing. It's obvious. The people in India, if you watch the world press, the people in India, the people in Korea, they're not getting away with nothing. And the dumb Africans, they had a few Africans. I saw the ambassador to Kenya last week. That's terrible. That man is a fool, right? And 2 days later, everything come rolling out, and he looks like a fool. Yeah, it's embarrassing. He ain't. People, they can do stuff so crazy that they're not embarrassed.
That's true too. Yeah.
Our crew is not embarrassed. You've heard Mukhtar and Khadijah, you hear Khadijah the most. The stuff they do is embarrassing to themselves. Your father sold you into slavery. What? Everybody else, and you said some terrible stuff about your mother. I said, well, I had a dream when I was 17. I saw a thing. Was it called Desilu Playhouse? It was first Untouchables. And I had no vision of, like what you want to be. I looked at that. I said, Al Capone. Good God Almighty. That's pretty nice. And I had a vision. I said, well, so I'm 17. I would love to drive up in a big gangster car and give my mother $1,000. Of course, at 17, in those days, $1,000 might as well be $1 million, right? Okay, a few years later, that's exactly what I'm doing. I didn't have a vision about giving my father $1,000, my mother $1,000. You see what I mean? These dummies don't know that. They're dummies. Okay. Lord, forgive them, they know not what they do. It's the Bible rendition, right? This hadith goes along with that. Yeah, if you follow a dummy, okay, but it's worse than that. See, for instance, like, okay, what would they do to people that would have, for instance, if you always coach people, try to help them along, them and their family, and all of that, and they reward you by trying to beat you to death, and they really do that, right? That's because of the boss man. That was when he was trying to reach out for something. He wanted to know where will this nigga go if we do that to him. We'll find out who his friends are, because I don't, and they can't figure out, well, he's got to have, who is it? He was in prison with niggas from all over the country. Technically, he's been all over the world. Who is his confidence? Who is his confidence? Bali Bufana, is that you? Yeah, that's them. It's not like if you want somebody to call, you just start talking, and that's what we talk about it a lot. We talk about, what is it, white man on the line, niggas on the line. All you got to do is to get them to respond, is do certain things. They always do it, right? That means when you go fishing, you're going to have a whole bucket. You got to throw some of them back because you got too many. That comes from years of patience. You really got to learn stuff to be able to pull that off. That it works every time, all the time. You can set your watch by it. You can do it because of long range patience. And you don't let systems of people control you. You control them. That's why we're who we are, and we can manage. They never expected it to happen. The whole system. That's what we do. People will understand it in the future. If they don't, it don't make no difference to us. All we want to do is get the job done, or set it up for somebody else to do it. It doesn't make no difference whether you get a name tag, 2 stars on your chest. That's for other people. All we want is to have a good world, and that we come in and we make that we add something good to the world from what we know, right? That's what we want to do. We don't need no celebration. They don't have to have no Masjid al-Islam Day or Masjid al-Islam Week. That stuff is for children. It don't make no difference. Okay, what we want to do is exactly what we're doing. We don't care whether people recognize it or whether people go along with it or they're happy with it. It doesn't make a difference. That's part of the maturity. That's part of the evolution. See, in order to do a real good job at what you're doing, you have to be, there's a taskiya bil nas, but non-attachment. This is the reality. I'm not attached to it. This is what helps anybody. That you want a good child to be born and you're not attached to it. And what? That's a big deal. That's real. It's possible. No, it's possible. It's not only possible, it's necessary. For the stage that we're living in now, or what we have evolved to, have been necessary. Okay? The attitude, the policies, the ideas, and our response to other people, our highest response have always been, never fight another Negro. That's been our thing. Okay. So that's what a vicious attack in Oakland is about. We're going to see, nigga. And they're going to get just that. And if you could see that thing, that was the whole thing. And I'm almost like yelling out orders. Do not make a move. Sit down and mind your own business. You don't understand what's going on, right? You don't understand this. This is a little too, because it's beyond them. How's a Negro that's used to, if a nigga jump on you, you jump on him back or try to beat him to the punch? That's the rule. That's why I don't go back to California much, because all my friends are from that type of thing, and they wouldn't understand. And I don't have time to explain it to them. But when I go back this time, I sit them down, have a nice long talk. This is what, now, if this happened to you, what do you do? Because I know what advice they was giving me all the time. Hey, man, who is them niggas? Well, yeah. Oh, no. No. Not on my watch. And that's just the ones that boss man could see, right? So he want to do stuff so you will go run right to your stash of people and you'll stand by who you got trust in. I ain't going nowhere. Stand right here. Why? Because we don't need them. They'll come out when the time is right. They'll be out. They might be out already running around. They don't know. It's too bad. They got to do right. If they don't do right, the historical process not going to do anything. You can't get whipped this bad without getting knocked out unless you got a blessing. In other words, America and all of it, they're getting whipped so bad. America's the most elegant country, one of them in the world, and the most people dying of these doggone diseases here in America, say me and you, but I mean, after all, right? I mean, the numbers is astounding. It's just, and they got all the medicine. But imagine, you can't get away from it. You have a dummy standing up there as the president tell you, well, here's what you do. You drink your little bleach. You take your, hey, man. I used to watch the little white lady. Where women, when they get certain things don't fit right, they do their legs like this. They wear legs like this, and they be like this. That woman's legs stayed like that. The more he talked, the more she wasn't paying attention, but I'm paying attention to body language. I said, boy, that white lady is getting the blues. That fool up there talking and she can't figure out what to say, and he turn around and now you can use a little bleach. So they're saying, yeah, on your clothes, nigga, you use plenty of bleach on your clothes to get them lighter. You know what I mean? But you mean to get rid of a disease? Yeah, it's 99% germ, 0.9 germ free. It'll kill certain germs on the outside, but it don't have no. And so this is this fool. He rolling right along. Hey, man. And then you follow him up with somebody that came from, what day is this? He forget more than I do. I mean, the guy is like out of it, and okay, that's symbolic of the system that's going out. But look at the world. The world didn't do nothing to help it get here. They got the children, they haven't did nothing. They got other people, they're talking about this thing. What do they call it? I don't know. They talking about it all the time. Let's see, what do they call that? Race theory. What is it? Critical race stuff. And see, if we think that they just show what they're doing with each other, they got 50 Negroes lined up to prove that America has been a nice place and it's terrible to say all of that stuff about, right? And guess who's saying it? Niggas. You see all them niggas on there? They Negroes saying they got books, niggas got books, and the people, especially the dark-skinned Negro that was just talking on here, on Black Network News, like, the guy that he was just talking on here. Yeah. You ought to see him sometime. He sit there and he'll ask the Negro a question, and oh no, this is it. Then there's an old Muslim looking brother on there the other day. Had a semi-Muslim name, had a beard and everything. And it's so ridiculous. So you think maybe this is made up about America? And the white man will say, well, we don't want our children burdened with... So what about burden that, how many white kids get shot? Do they get shot? You know what I mean? Do you get beat to death? Do you get how many? Who's that? So this critical race theory, maybe somebody made it up. You know what I mean? Da 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 da. It's just hilarious. It's unbelievable that they go like. That's why we're not. When Negroes surround us and do all that old dumb stuff, they do it to everybody. But see, them, just like us, they have to get experience with this stuff. They're getting experience now. They're getting experience. They don't have as much experience we do. Because we've been doing it longer. And we've said things that put you out. But other people, they getting out there with Zionism, and they getting out there with other stuff too. It ain't just us. Shoot, one of the cities down there, it was a sister city to Palestine, one of the cities in Palestine. Ferguson, yeah, this is a sister city. Oppression is oppression. The things are catching up. Okay, the only thing is we're just going down real. We're not going to do anything. There's no sense of coming this far. And there's no incentive to divert. They have nothing to offer to make any diversion or anything else. The only reason that I know is true is because I've already had everything that they say is big. And I had it a long time ago. And I know that if I had one good day a month in those days, if I was lucky, I have 28 good days now. Just nice, wonderful days. 28, I ain't never had that before. I might have 5 good days, all getting good run. Well, I mean, they was all good days, but I mean contented days, like contentment and stuff like that. Mm-mm. See, the boss man and all that stuff gets in the way of people because it looks real like it's something and it ain't nothing. And everybody ought to know that because all the people that look the prettiest and have the biggest houses and all that are unhappy. They got psychiatrists. They even had California, L.A., Hollywood, been full of psychiatrists for over 50 years. If it's so nice, why everybody got a psychiatrist? If you had a population where 80% of the people had to have a psych, right? 80% of the people in Hollywood, and then the psych is sitting there with some red bloomers on and orange shoes and pink drawers, right? And it's okay. And he's trying to help you out of your problem, right? It's insanity, right? It's insanity. But the crazier it is, the more, I guess it looks normal to them. Anyway, we'll speed up a little bit. Forget about Ukraine and a comedian is now president. Forget about it. Right? A comedian. He has no training. And so this stuff that's going on, why you think they choose him? Hey, we choose you to go do this. And we tell you that we're going to get behind you. He said, yeah, y'all going to get behind me? Then I do this too. Then he go out there and jump all in. And he said, where y'all at? I said, well, who's that? You can't leave me out here. You can see him on TV talking about, you promised this, you promised that. Must be a fool. You think we're going to go out there and get in there? That man got atomic bombs, hydrogen bombs, and you think it's a joke. Tell a joke to him or something, right? Because he don't know diplomacy. He don't know the double cross. Because if he was in it, if he knew, he would know better than to let somebody. He's next door to Russia. Russia then just knocked over, not Ukraine, but what was that down there? Crimea. It is. That's 6 years ago. He knocked over Crimea. Of course, everybody said they was happy. Well, they said that was just all right. So, y'all remember that we went over that thing about the Crimean War? Yeah. Half a league onward into the valley of death, road to 600. They should have read that before they did this. They have a lot of names for what's going on now. They have a chaotic, they have a fiasco, they have, tell the truth, this stuff that's going on right now, what is it? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's like, for us, it's like we hate to see people get hurt and people get killed, but manifestation of defects. We want to save the world. Well, you don't want to save Afghanistan. You just run out of there last month. You ran out of there and left everybody behind in Afghanistan, and that people haven't forgot. That's too close together, right? Okay. That's right there on the thing. It's right on the date book thing. Okay. So for the last 5 or 6, 7 years now, since 2015, the richest Arab country in the world been bombing and killing and wedding parties and everything, and nobody say nothing. And it take a Negro to come out and remind them. Oh, you guys, da-da-da-da-da. And then the dummies come out on TV. I just have to mention it because we all know it. Those people are civilized. Why, they have blonde hair and blue eyes, good God Almighty. And then they keep showing blonde hair and blue eyes. All Ukrainians don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. They got plenty, they got as many with black hair. You know what I mean? They got many brunettes as they do blondes. You don't see them. You don't, oh, no.
All the refugee stories, they're all like Western European looking Ukrainians. They don't put them.
They're Northern European looking.
Right. Northern.
They're up that way looking. And they got sense. And Africans and Indians, hey, you niggas get at the back of the line. This is America 1922, nigga. You get back there where you belong. You think we got all these white folks? This is what they're acting, right? They got to go. But I got to go too, and I got my family. Your family. Hey, Why, everybody on this train, don't you see blonde hair, blue eyes on this train?
I hate it.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, civilized.
Civilized. What a, hey, man, look, we couldn't write this script. Tell the truth. Go back a month ago. Could we write this script for the decline for chaos? No dogs and Chinese allowed. In a park in China. No Chinese dogs allowed. No, no. In China. Yeah. Hey, man, you can't, it's not that it's funny, but what it means is that you can almost count the end of this period. You could see that this is it. Okay. So the last thing I want to say is that if it's close to it, then we should. I believe that Allah hooked us a mission up, and we should try to orientate ourselves toward that. This is people always prayed for to play a part in something that's really meaningful. This is it. This is it. So, I don't want to go overboard here. Black News Channel. Okay, so are there any questions? Are there any comments?
Yeah, there's a few. Brother Imam, how are they sending weapons into Ukraine with Russia in control of the border and air? Is this propaganda?
It has to be some propaganda because, like you say, the Russians control the air. They control the airspace. Okay. If you've been paying attention, they've been destroying weapons depots all the time. Okay. So, they might be just lying. We're going to send you, it wouldn't be they do it to Negroes all the time. You go out there, nigga, and you put your life on the line, and we're going to send you a big birthday cake, and we're going to send you this. And the Negroes say, boss man, that's the same famous thing. Boss man. It don't make no difference what race you are, what color you are, but you trusting on him. The Ukrainians, see, that's why they could do that on a non-diplomatic person. He was a clown. So he don't know, but he don't know that this is what he don't know diplomacy. You couldn't do that with Putin. Putin said, man, what you talking about? You think I'm a fool? You couldn't do it to Iranians, right? And when they did something to Iranians, they took a long time to set it up. Believe it or not, you could watch it almost on TV. They had, what was the program they used to have? Where? House of Cards. No, not House of Cards. They had something on that too. But Madam Secretary. You ever see Madam Secretary? Okay, Madam Secretary was the white woman was Secretary of State. The Secretary of State was hooked, when it got real tight, she hooked up with an Iranian. And they said, yeah, we have a nickname for you, the CIA does. And this Iranian it would be 99% Javad Zarif. Okay, but you got to look. Other people, we call it sciencing it up. Other people watching these TV programs to watch TV. I'm watching it to see what their script writers are talking about, what their advisors, if they have an advisor that advises the CIA, okay, therefore the advisor is going to tell them certain things. If you watch the white lady, that was a spy. Salt. The white ladies assault with salt. Okay, years ago they have them in the room and they're going, okay, da 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 da. Huh? She's in Yemen, actually waving the flag for Yemenis. Good, good for her. Well, there's a couple of white people that some of them got little black children. I mean, stuff. I mean, don't worry if they do a good deed. It don't make no difference whether they trying to play people or get popular or. Madonna said the most deep man she ever heard about was Malcolm X. So what the hell? If this she could be lying or telling the truth. She might be telling the truth. Okay, so if they go and adopt little black children, well, at least they gonna party. They ain't gonna starve to death, right? So whatever the reason, they reason for doing it, hey, the little niggas ain't gonna starve to death or get eat up by a tsetse fly or something, right? So, and then those type of people, you can expect certain things out of them, but you can't demand that they be like your niyyah gotta be perfect. Your da 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 da. No. So if they got a niyyah that's 40% good, that's great for them. And then there's 35% stardom. That's okay, right? And so many other percent sex symbolism. So what? That's them. If Angelina Jolie can go over to Yemen and other white people look at it and say she's a smart white woman, she may not have no sense, but it's still, they think she do, and that's great, right? I would love to give a talk at the white folks movie show, whatever they call it, where they give out the awards. You know, maybe sometime in the future it might be. But anyway, what was the question now?
Well, that was the question. Billy answered it. Brother was saying that
About the weapons. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look.
propaganda. That's what the final
Propaganda from the West or propaganda from.
from the West that they're going to send weapons to Ukraine. It's not the logistics just don't work.
That's right. The logistics is how you going to get them there.
Right.
Are you going to bring them by train? Are you going to cross the border and Russia got all these new supersonic, they can hear you, they can smell you, and they push the buttons and they'll blow you up? And remember, boss man, he have told some lies in the past. And he have set people up, black ones, white ones, and he don't usually care. He Go ahead.
That's kind of what's being exposed. That this is, I mean, well, that's what Putin calls America, the empire of lies.
Yeah. Hey man, look. Uh, Look, this stuff. This is a surprise. Because like 3 weeks ago, nobody thought we would be here talking about this right now. So this is a surprise that it's unbelievable. It answers all the stuff. It's a verification of everything we've ever said. This one right here. So's all the rest, but this is a surprise verification of everything and everybody. everything is going our way. We don't have any complaints. But this convinces us to be stronger in our belief and our yaqeen, our certainty about what we're dealing with. Because remember, nobody would select what we're doing. Nobody would go that if they was buying a future or buying a behavior pattern, nobody would purchase ours. They, in fact, they would admire its beauty and its reality. It's too expensive for me. I can't afford it. That's what 98% of the people would do. Anything that's that valuable is good. Okay. Are there any more questions?
Yeah. Well, this one was a comment. This brother was was venting. He was saying that it's sickening to watch the Zionist news media. The Palestinians are suffering, but most of the world stand by the oppressor and call the oppressed terrorists. Here, the U.S. talking about an international criminal court, the same boss man who has killed thousands of innocent Iraqis and Afghans. You know, just talking about the nifaq dripping off boss man.
You won't have to vent much longer. You can see that this is getting closer. You got to remember, the United States is not on any world court. It's not in any of those organizations.
Right. That actually is true stuff.
They're not in any of those.
Yeah.
They're not in any of them. Okay? That means that we too big for you to mess with like that. We don't have, that makes them act worse.
Right, yeah.
So they like the guy we talk about, the baboon walking down with his big red behind and his big old lips. Yeah. And he don't consider himself a baboon. His butt sticking up in the air. But we do. We said that's a serious baboon, and he's strutting just like he's the king. I'm the king of the world. Yeah. And his big red behind is sticking out, right? That's the way we visualize. That's the way he's acting. Isn't that true? Yeah. He's acting any kind of way he wants. I am the king. I'm the baboon king. I run the world. And everybody is either staying away from him, laughing at him, or trying to kill him. The world, the crash of an empire is usually most people feel like it's a big tragedy. Babylon the Great fall, the Roman Empire fell with all of its grandeur. It was good to get rid of that thing. It got to mess it up, right? And oppressing people. The Ottoman Empire, the British Empire. The American Empire is going to beat the British down. Because early part of this century, it was a great British Empire. The sun never set on the British Empire. It's a big deal. And now the sun never rises on it. And what they did to the Mau Maus and other people, it's come back to, they got a man over there running things who's a bigger fool than Donald Trump was. He's a real clown. Yeah. I mean, he is he acts like that's his job to be a fool. Yeah. And, so it's not that we're overconfident, but it's not that we're happy with these things, but in a way, the sooner these things manifest, the better we can get to helping the new world develop out of this. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is, which we all know is true, you have to be very big and attached to reality, but detached. You can't fix a thing. Even a doctor, they don't let a doctor operate on his own child or something because it's attached to it. That's the way we got to look at the world. We have to fix the world without being attached to it.
Well, on that note, how about the U.S. going to Venezuela and Iran seeking assistance with them putting their oil back on? How big do you have to be?
I was reading that today. I said they back down to Venezuela. Now Venezuela is big, it's rich and everything, but they've been starving to death. It's like it's chaotic. It's ridiculous. Oh, Iran! Iran, it's been so long since us. How y'all doing? Hey, come on in, have a seat.
Yeah, they're gonna push this peace treaty, the whole deal thing. They just gonna get whatever Iran wants. They just gonna push this thing all through.
They're already doing it. You gotta remember, like if you notice you don't hear nothing,
Yep.
and Iran's oil production is up.
Yep.
And okay, if they get to 3.5 million barrels a day, that's one thing. But they cruising about with a couple right now, and nobody's mentioning it. They're just not mentioning it. Right. That's the way they're implementing this thing. Is okay, we just won't say, we'll just talk around it, all of a sudden, it'll be done. And they're not saying nothing about it, but Iran is already pumping oil. Right. It's pumping oil right now. You don't hear Iran hollering about, we ain't got nothing no more. They rolling. Right. They're rolling right now. This is the hypocrisy and the stupidity of the United States. One thing we said a long time ago, Iran got the white man's number, the American's number, and they don't know it. And neither the Iranians don't know they got boss man's number. They got his number. But they like, what's the fighter? It was used to fight Muhammad Ali sometime. Oh, Ken Norton. He had Muhammad Ali's number. Nobody else had it. It was so awkward and butthole backwards. But Muhammad Ali, he was king of that ring. But he just he couldn't do nothing with that clown. And he wasn't a good fighter. Everybody would beat him upside the head, run him around the thing. Right? Yeah. But he had Muhammad Ali's number. Maybe the white folks brainwashed him so much that he got focused in on that. And that's probably what did it. You know, I bet you I'll take care of you. And he, okay. The point is that everything that we talk about is you can touch it and taste it. So that means the things that we're doing, they bear big importance. It don't matter whether people know it or whether they, that's not why we're doing it. Almost the less people know about it, the better. So we want to get our job done. Okay, is those the last questions?
Yeah, those are the last ones, and I need to go too.
Okay, all right. Just remember that tomorrow at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, yeah. Maybe we could be around 10:30 because we should clean up a little. Okay, yeah. I'll probably be here about 10 or so. I know I talked to Brother Ahmed. He's supposed to be coming as well to help. Okay. For the janazah tomorrow? For the janazah. Yeah. The janazah is supposed to be at 11 or something like that. I'll be here. Okay, we'll be here, and then kind of be ready. I might ask you to do it, Okay. It's only going to be a few people, but that's what they say. They say it's going to be a few people. Last time it was 1,000.